started, let's open up with prayer and then we'll move right into the class. I'd like to thank all of you for coming, and we pray that you will get what you're expecting to get from this class. Father, we thank you for your goodness, for your mercy, and your grace. You said be fervent in business. We ask that you will be glorified in this. Now let the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be accepted in thy sight. God, you are my strength and my redeemer. We thank you, God, that you enabled us to be successful. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right, we'll start out with the purpose. I'm a retired military person, so each of you came with a purpose. I'm going to tell you what my purpose is, and hopefully my purpose matches what your purpose is for being here. We're going to start about what this class is not. It's not a class to reveal to you some secret, some scam, or some way to get rich quick. If that's what you came for, get a lottery ticket. Yeah, all right, but that's not what this is for. It's free. I'm not going to charge you any money for it. The follow-on classes will be free. They're not any money. If you want to spend your money, I can recommend a couple of programs that have been in Augusta. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is still in the Augusta area. Fortune Builders in the area. Basically, what happens is you go to their first class, which will be a couple hours. That'll be for free. That'll be to recruit you to sign up for a 3-day class, which would typically cost you about $200. That 3-day class, they will give you some books like this. They will give you a lot of information, but not really tell you how to do what they're telling you that you're going to get. So what they will sell you then is additional educational classes. One calls it a tuition for the classes. The other one is just additional classes that you have to pay for, which will cost you anywhere from $14,000 to $45,000. 60. All right. So thank you. $14,000 to $60,000 that you will pay for that additional information. Now that would not be bad if they guarantee that after the first year, if you follow the directions that they give you, that you will recoup that money. That would be good for a person who wants to become an entrepreneur and has no idea how to do it. But they don't guarantee, they tell you up front, they don't guarantee anything. So you can spend, in fact, I have a friend that's in one of my investors clubs. He spent $38,000 and he was just out of $38,000. All right, so and let you know that's not what this is. If you want to attend one of those and you have the money to throw away like that, actually, we had that money to throw away. Talk to me after class, after this class, and I can make you and me some money. All right. Again, I said it's not a how to get rich class. This is not going to be an exhaustive class to teach you how to go and buy a house tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. What I'm going to do is give you some information that will enable you to work on purchasing your first house if you have not purchased one yet. Okay, so this is not an exhaustive class. We're going to talk about some ideas. We'll talk about some options that you have for purchasing if you have bad credit or no credit, or you cannot get a loan from the bank, which is a traditional way. So we're going to talk about some other options that you have. We will have a follow-up class that I will have time to be able to teach some of those methods. Okay? This class is designed to educate you on some of the non-conventional methods. And what I want to get you to a point that you think outside of the box. All right? A lot of people think that they have to go through the conventional way of getting a mortgage to buy a house. If that's what you plan on doing, what you like to do, then again, this is the wrong class. We're not going to spend much time on those traditional and conventional ways. Sometimes when you have an unconventional situation, you have to do something unconventional to get out of that situation. Okay? And so that's what I'm going to talk about. be positive about whatever information that we're going to put out. The fact that you're here is a positive step and you took action to get here. But sometimes people come for different reasons. Some come just to spectate. Some come to be naysayers. They really don't expect to get anything out, but they come just so that they can have something to talk about. I want positive energy. All right? And so I want everybody to think positive and tell yourself that you can reach your goal. All right? That's say, I can reach my goal. All right? You need to tell yourself that, because so many times that we hear that we can't do something until we start to believe that we can't do it. All right? And I'll give you a little story about that later on. But so we're going to start out, you can reach your goal. So if your goal is to become a first-time homeowner, you can become a homeowner. Regardless of what the bank says, you can become a homeowner. All right? Now, why in the world do you put that phrase inside of it? Who wants to be a millionaire? I see some folks say no. You want to be a millionaire? Anybody else want to be a millionaire? I asked somebody else that want to be a millionaire. I have one more person who wants to be a millionaire? All right, I need 3 people up here that wants to be a millionaire. I need 3 people. I'm only taking 3, so the first 3 that is here. Now, in order for these 3 people to become millionaires, they're going to have to tell you how they're going to spend their $1 million. All right? So, in this scenario, we're going to say that this is legal tender. I think in 1973, President Nixon took us off of the gold standard. And so, this money here, this is $1 million, each one of these, is pretty much like the dollars that you have in your pocket. All right? It's fake that they work. Because it's just paper. All right? When it was a gold standard, they weighed something that would worth gold. Since it's off the gold standard, they're just paper. We have faith in as long as people take it. So we're going to say these $1 million, each one of these is legal tender. So now we have 3 millionaires. How about that? Give them a hand. Now what I need to know is, how are you going to spend that $1 million? You reach that? So we need to know how you're going to spend the $1 million. So we'll start off. Do you know what you're going to do with your $1 million?
Yes.
Okay, you want to share with us?
It's called investment and diversification.
Okay, where you going to invest it?
Invest in real estate, invest in gold,
Okay.
invest in silver,
Okay.
and probably utilities or fuel.
Okay, so where's the first place that you're going to go?
First place I'm going to go is to properties that I already own. And,
I mean, where's the first place you're going to take that $1 million deal to start your...
well, the first place I would take it is to the bank.
You're going to take it to the bank, okay? Which bank are you going to take it to?
And probably community bank.
Community bank. All right, so we're going to stop right there. You're going to take the community bank and deposit, and then you're going to make an investment.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to hold it right there. We have one. He wanted it, but he don't know what he's going to do with it now. He's got it. We have one that's going to take it to the bank, and man, what are you going to do with your $1 million?
Well, I'm going to put mine in the bank too, and then I'm going to give my church 10%.
Okay.
And then I'll probably check my family out and see who all in need, and I'll give them. And then what I have left, I'll give you. Yes, I got my set thing to give my. They can't get no what I give. And ain't no nigga asking me for what nothing.
check at the bank. So, whichever one you want to come first and deposit the money.
Well, first, before I come to you, I have a couple of things I gotta do.
And what's that?
First one would be to set up a QRB
Okay.
and put it in the court. And then I will come to you.
Okay, I'm gonna be at the table. I'm the first person that in the financial institution that you're gonna bring your $1 million. So you wanna. Okay, sir. What can I do for you?
You have to set up a corporate account.
Just like to set a corporate account. Okay. And what type of deposit are you making in there? Hold on just a moment, sir. Now I'm going to step into the role of the bank manager or the bank president. Because if I was a tailor and he brought $1 million to me, I can't make a deposit
Exactly.
for $1 million.
Exactly.
So, yes, sir, what can I do for you?
I'm going to make a deposit.
Okay, and how much will you deposit today, sir? Sorry, could you step in my office? And right now, I'm going to ask you to have a seat for a moment, and I'm going to finish this scenario out. You can take the $1 million. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I want you to understand, all right, is understand money. All right, because you can't buy a house with nothing. And so, when I say we have to think out of the box, when we think about money, all right, if you take $1 million, somebody already took $1 million to Walmart, you know what happened to them? A lady took $1 million, like similar to what I just passed out to Walmart, to try to buy groceries. Do you know what happened to her? She got locked up. Okay? If you take $1 million legal tender, all right, if it's legal tender, you should be able to deposit it in the bank, you would think. The branch manager is not going to deposit $1 million until, one, he makes a call to our government. Uncle Sam wants to know that you made that type of deposit. All right? You're not going to be able to make that deposit that same day. Because next question is going to be, where did you get $1 million? All right? So now you have to answer. You say, well, Reverend Moffitt gave it to me. Then they want Reverend Moffitt to come and ask, where did you get $1 million to give, and did you pay gift tax on it? So what I want you to understand is when you understand money and how it works, a lot of people say, I want to be a millionaire or I want $1 million, but you don't understand how money works. Now, you don't have $1 million once they determine that it is legal tender and you indeed received it in a non-illegal way, and they will deposit it. Now, Uncle Sam wants his money. So you got to pay federal taxes, which is going to be roughly $330,000 to $350,000. So now you're down to about $650,000. So you don't have $1 million. Then you got to pay the state taxes. So basically, when you finally finish with everything, you might have $500,000. All right. So now all those dreams that you want to spend $1 million for now have come down to just $500,000. And so the point that I'm trying to make is, thank you, my participants, my volunteers, is before we talk about buying a house, we need to understand how money operates. All right? And once we understand how money operates, then we can make money work for us. All right? You learn something from that? Other thing I want you to know, if you make a deposit in any bank, and this is just general information, and I'm working on your mindset, whether you know that or not. If you make a deposit of $10,000 or more in any bank, the government is being notified. All right? $10,000 or more, they are being notified. So I just want you to know, so you know how money works. So thanks for our meeting. Let's give them a hand. say you don't want to be a millionaire. The thing that we don't realize is that a lot of people, and perhaps everyone in this room, will have $1 million in their lifetime. All right? Based on education, you see from this slide that a person who has a high school education, a high school diploma, can expect to make $1.3 million in their lifetime. All right? Just a high school diploma, you can expect. So you will have $1.3 million that you will have spent. So in that regard, you can say you were a millionaire. You just didn't have it all at one time. Okay? If a person with some college, approximately 1.55 million, and you can see the rest 2.27 for a bachelor's degree, 2.67 for a master's, 3.25 for a doctoral, and 3.6, almost $4 million for a person who has a professional degree. All right? So again, you can see from this perspective that your education can contribute to how much money that you will have within a lifetime. One of the things, if you're going to become a homeowner, and if you're going to manage your money well, you need to know when opportunity knocks, that you need to open the door and let it in. Sometimes opportunity knocks and we just let it keep knocking. We miss out on it. So when you recognize an opportunity, and if you talk about becoming a homeowner, you may have an opportunity to become a homeowner and miss it. And so now you're going to have to work at it again. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to make sure that when opportunity knocks and then look for opportunity to be able and to know how to recognize opportunity. Anybody here like fudge? Fudge. Yeah. There's folks here that like fudge. Now, if there was good fudge that you could just have, that how many folks would jump on it that likes fudge? If you see the opportunity for some fudge, just see the opportunity for fudge. I mean, would you take advantage of that opportunity? Okay. The opportunity, when you see an opportunity, you have to take advantage of that opportunity. When you see an opportunity, you need to take advantage. Now, a very interesting phenomenon happened with that opportunity. Okay? Very interesting. And I'm an entrepreneur. From my experience of the opportunity, I took all 3 packs. I took all 3 packs. And you know what? Whether I ate fudge or not, somebody said, well, why, Reverend, would you take all 3 packs? Well, if I was the only one to get up and walk up to get them, nobody else wanted to get them, and I got it because I could eat 1 pack and sell the other 2. Okay? Now, when we talk about, we're going to get to a point, I'm going to talk about financing your first house. When we think about ways of financing, that was just 3 packs of fudge. If I didn't eat fudge and I sold all 3, however much I got from it, basically, let's say that $10 a piece, that's $30 for my house. $30 that I didn't have, $30 that I didn't have to do anything for, but to walk up. As a matter of fact, how long did it take you to walk up there? Less than a minute. So I would have made $30 in less than 1 minute. All right. Mindset, ladies and gentlemen. If the bank say no to you, and if you don't have enough money to go out and buy a house with cash, then our mindset needs to say anything that I can do legally to put money toward my goal, I need to to do. So that was opportunity. Now, if they're going to eat that fudge, they're going to sell the fudge, what they're going to do with the fudge. But the point is that when you see an opportunity, you need to take advantage of it. What is your mindset? Can you accomplish your goals? Can you accomplish your goals? All right. You can if you have the right mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, then you can't. And no matter what people tell you, if you have the right mindset, you can overcome what people tell you. Does anybody ever want to do something and your bestest friend said, girl, you can't do that? Okay? Because in their mindset that you couldn't. And if you listen to them, guess what? You won't do it. All right? So we need to have the right mindset. So what is the right mindset? The right mindset is one having the right attitude. Having the right attitude. Philippians 4, 8 and 9 says, finally, brethren, whatsoever is true, whatsoever is honorable, whatsoever is just, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Was there anything negative in there? All right? All positive things. It says, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. All positive. You got to have a positive attitude. Philippians 2:14 and 15 says, do all things without grumbling or question, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God, without blemish in the mind of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. Again, all positive. Colossians 3 and 10 says, and have put on a new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its creator. And finally, Philippians 2 and 14 says, I can do all things through Christ Jesus, who strengthens me. All right, so we need to have the right mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, if you tell yourself you can't, you won't. When I was younger, I grew up poor in the city of Detroit, Michigan. Up until the 3rd grade, we lived in the local Greenwich district, and my parents were renters. When we were in the 3rd grade, my parents moved to a middle class. It was a Jewish neighborhood, but it was a middle class neighborhood. The neighborhood that I lived in, that I grew up, in that neighborhood, we had music producers. Barry Gordy's parents lived in that neighborhood. Willie Gordon, who played for the Detroit Tigers, lived in that neighborhood. That's the type of neighborhood that I grew up in. Now, we were poor. Oftentimes, the light was out, we had no food, but we were in that neighborhood. My parents were homeowners. They ended up losing the house, but they were homeowners at that point. The fact that we grew up on welfare and the fact that we lost the house, while as a child I aspired to be an entrepreneur and to own a house, I had a fear that it was too difficult because I was to own a house. So it was years and years and years before I even tried because I had the wrong mindset. When I first bought my first house, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was. But as long as I thought I couldn't do it, I did. And when you think you can do something and you let somebody else tell you that you can't do it, okay, you go to one banker and they say no, don't give up. You go to another banker. If they say no, you go to another banker. When I sold cars, one of the things that we were taught is that you work for no's. That only makes sense, doesn't it? Work for no? What do you mean, Reverend? Work for no? Because we learned that it takes 99 no's to get one yes. So to get to that yes, you work for those 99 no's. So every time you get one, you get encouraged because, hey, I'm one step closer to a yes. When you're going out, you've got to have the same attitude. Okay? You're working to get that yes. There's somebody, if you want to go a traditional way, there's somebody that will loan you money. All right? Well, there is a yes answer for you to get a house. It may not be the bank, but you don't quit until you get a yes. We got it? All right? So right attitude is key. Now, once you get the right attitude, is attitude alone enough for you to buy a house? No. So not only do we have to have the right attitude, but then we have to know what is our ability. Now, somebody said, well, brother, what do you mean by what's my ability? You have to know what you can buy. All right? So this is not a dream. It's not, you're not going to go out and buy a $1 million house and you can't get a traditional mortgage. All right? You're not going to go buy your dream house the first time and you can't get a traditional mortgage. All right? But you can buy a house, so you have to be able to figure out how much can I afford and how much am I willing to sacrifice to buy a house. All right? So we have to know what our ability is, because this class is not, I'm not going to tell you that you can go out in Martinez or Evans and buy a $350,000 house after coming to Reverend M's class. All right? Because if you can do that, yes, you wouldn't be here. I'd be out in Martinez buying a $350,000 house. All right? So we have to know what our ability is. And the way we know what our ability is you're going to have to assess your finances. You're going to have to decide what sacrifices that you are willing to make to put the money away so that you can buy your first house. Maybe what I'm going to talk about when I get to house options are cash options. All right? So you need to know how much cash you can put away in order to buy your first house, which means you may have to make some sacrifices. All right? And you're going to have to be realistic. Everybody doesn't make the same amount of money. All right? But I would submit to you that even if you make minimum wage, I told my 15-year-old son back then that before he buys a car, he's going to buy a house. And somebody may look at me and say, you were crazy. And no, I'm not. Because I know what his ability is, I know what my ability is. And with the knowledge that his father has, he will be able to buy a house on what he can make as a 15-year-old. Now, if he can do that, there's no excuse for anybody else here not to do it. You just have to be willing to do the work and make the sacrifice. You have to be willing to do without some things. You have to be willing to do some things that other people won't do. All legal. I'm not telling you to do anything illegal. I'm going to get to what some of those things are in a little bit. All right? And so we need to understand what our ability is. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and of love and self-control. If you are afraid that you're going to fail, guess what's going to happen? All right? So don't have the fear. If you're afraid of what people are going to say, you're probably going to fail. Now, many of you probably expect to come here and see me in a suit or a tie, shirt and a tie, at the minimum. So you walk in and say, wait, I'm coming to a class about how to buy a house, and that joker standing up there in overalls. But in the world is this. All right, and I did that purposely. Because we need to get the mindset, not to judge a book by its cover. All right? One of the things that we do is we size people up by what they wear. And what I have learned in 53 years of living is that a lot of people want to look like $1 million, but they don't have $1 million. The people who have $1 million don't care how they look. All right? You came to class and did something that I have. I could care less what you think about me. I already know. I know what my ability is. I know what I have. All right? And so we have to get that mindset. And what I want you to understand is that don't worry about what people say about you. Because they don't, just the way I dress, you don't know what I have and what my ability is. If I want to wear Rolex, I can pay me a Rolex. I want to put on a $2,000 suit, I can put on a $2,000 suit. If I want to put on alligator shoes, I can go in my car and put on alligator shoes. If I want to drive up in a Mercedes, I can drive up in a Mercedes. But that little black truck that you saw out there with all that junk in the back of it is what I drove here today. All right? Because I don't care what people think. When I was young and didn't have no money, then I dressed like $1 million. You looked at, ooh, that man, he got some money. I had nothing. And we have got to get out of that mindset. While you working toward your goal, all right? And you see other folks with name brands and designers, and you're sacrificing so that you can make your money work for you, Don't care about what other people are saying. Know what your ability is. If you want to buy a house, you have no business going out and buying designer clothes, designer purses, designer shoes, and I mean, you don't even buy designer food. You should be couponing, and we do extreme couponing at our church. So we want to learn how to do it. We have Miss Mackey over there that's teaching us how to extreme coupon. You need to be putting as much money into buying your house as you can, and don't care what other people are saying. Ephesians 3:20 says, "Now to him who was able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power and work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus through all generations forever and ever." God is able to do in us far more than we can think of. As a matter of fact, and I'm a pastor, so if you're not a Christian, you're missing out on an ability that Christians have. Because my daddy, who is God, says that, one, I can do all things through him, not through me, no matter what the banker says. And he said he'll supply all of my needs according to his riches and glory. And then he says, if I delight myself in him, he will even give me the desire of my heart. That's not just words in the Bible. That's true. And I can attest to you that he's given that to me. I will tell you that I'm spoiled. Because God has given me everything that I've asked for that did not involve changing the will of somebody else. Everything that I've asked for. Yes, that's a big commitment. He has given me everything that I've asked for outside of changing the will of somebody else. Sometimes what I asked for I didn't need, and I had to deal with the consequences of it, like wanting to buy a car before I understood that I don't have to live for the Joneses, I need to live for Moffett. And so I asked for a car that I didn't need to get. He let me have it. I learned a lesson before I never did that again. All right. So with much comes much responsibility. And so I have learned to be careful about what I ask God for. All right. And I say that to say that if you're looking for your first house, you may ask him for a house that you don't need. And you have to deal with the consequences. That's what I'm talking about, ability. You need to know what you need. My wife is in school tonight, but we have lived below our means ever since the first house that we bought. And the first house that we bought was a HUD repo. All right? We could live in a gated community if we chose to live in a gated community. And the only drawback from that is that in the gated community, there may be a better school. But my son, because my dad doesn't go to the school that we wanted him to go to, whether we live in a gated community or not. All right? So what I'm saying is that a part of this, because I'm who I am, it incorporates having God as your dad. All right? So you need to know what your ability is. Now, if I have the right attitude, and I know what my abilities are, does that get me my first house? Absolutely not. All right? Because I have the right attitude. I know what my abilities are, but I haven't done anything. All right? So once I know what my attitude is, once I know what my abilities are, I have to take action. And that's where a lot of us fall short. We get all these goals, we get all these plans, and then we don't take action. How many of you made New Year's resolutions? Don't raise your hand. Our next question would be, how many of you have kept your New Year's resolution? It's only February. The odds are that half of the ones that say I made them have already fallen short. We haven't even got but 2 months into the year. Okay? So we have to take action. All right? This is a quote from Reverend Ing. All right? Potential unrealized is just a dream. Potential unrealized is just a dream. All right? So if you have the potential and you don't put it into action, you just had a dream. And a dream is what? You can't get anything from a dream. So you've got to put it into action. All right, now we've spent about half of the night getting our minds right. Because if you had your mind right, the information I'm going to give you in a few minutes would have made a difference. Many of you are wondering or may ask yourself, why should I listen to that little bald-headed man? All right? Am I right? Don't we want people that we want to know the person that's talking to us is credible, that they know what they're talking about. I mean, do you normally take advice from people that don't know what they're talking about or haven't done what they're talking about? All right, so I'm going to do something I don't like to do, but that's just to establish the credibility. So you know who I am and why, what makes me capable of giving you the information that I'm going to give you. All right, so that you can use it. My wife and I own PIIPE. PIIP stands for People Investing in People. We own over 20 properties. Our properties are worth over $1 million. Okay? So, information I'm going to give you is information that I've gone to the school of hard knocks for and to accomplish. And if a little picked on, bullied kid from Detroit, Michigan can do it, you can do it too. All right? So, you can do it. Tell yourself, I can do it. I can do it. All right? So I'm not giving you information because I bought one house and I think I'm an investor. All right? And that property includes some single-family homes, some multi-family homes, and some land. All right? And I continue to do it. Last year I started a lawn care business. All right? And this year we determined what that lawn care business is going to do. But what I did with the investment in lawn care business, if my business does not succeed, the equipment that I have, I can sell it, I will still make a profit. Everything that I do, though, is geared. I have a goal. Everything is geared. It goes back into my real estate. Because you know what? Are they making any more land? No. Okay, so real estate is not going anywhere. If our money becomes no good, whatever they use, if you have land and property, they've got to trade whatever they're trading with, they've got to trade that with you. All right? That might not be where your investment is at, because this is not geared for the investors, but it's geared for you to own your own home. Now, I'm going to get to some myths. And one of the myths is that owning a home is an asset. Anybody ever heard that? All right. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad says that a home is a liability. And I agree with it. However, if you own a home, it's your liability. All right? And the reason it's liability, his definition of an asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out. The reason that you want to be a homeowner, once you decide that that's what you want to do, because everybody doesn't need to be a homeowner, but if you hear, I would think that you want to be one. But the reason that you want to be a homeowner is that when you don't, you make people like me rich. Because you rent my properties out. Okay? So if you just want to spend your money and make somebody else rich, that's good. But if you want to have something that's yours and that eventually can become an asset, okay, then you want to get your own place. All right? I don't mind you making me rich. All right? So, look, but if you don't want to do that, then you want to get your own place. One of the myths about buying a house is that you need a lot of money to buy a house. Anybody ever heard that? So let me just ask this. How much would you think that you need? What's the minimum amount of money you think you need to buy a house? All right, somebody said $1. Somebody said 10%. 10%. Anybody else?
3% of the minimum amount somebody can receive.
What's that?
The minimum amount somebody is willing to receive.
He says the minimum amount somebody is willing to receive. All right? So, I will go with that. The minimum amount that somebody is willing to receive. All right? There are some houses that you can buy with HUD sales, some dollar houses. All right? correct. There's some criteria, some things that you have to go through to get a dollar house. But guess what? A dollar house is a dollar house that becomes your house if you meet those criteria. If you can't get a traditional loan, that dollar house is at least something that you can start with. Does that make sense? Next myth is that you have to have good credit to buy a house. Anybody heard that? You only have to have good credit to buy a house in the traditional manner that houses are bought. I've already established. I'm not going to talk about traditional methods. If you don't have any credit at all, or if you have bad credit, or if I can just say your credit just jacked up, then you can expect to do things the conventional way. So we're going to talk, that's why you're here. So we're going to talk about other ways to buy, which means you have to have no credit. You don't have to have a high school diploma, okay? All you have to do, we're going to talk about cash, you just have to have some cash. All right? So we're going to debunk that. You need a mortgage. Anybody heard that? You got to get a mortgage to buy a house, right? Well, you only need a mortgage if you borrow money. All right? If you're going to pay cash for a house, do you need a mortgage if you're going to pay cash? So we're going to debunk those myths. And I want a mindset to be, if you can't get a traditional loan, then we're going to talk about how to buy my first house with cash. Somebody say with cash. Cash. All right? Say I can. I can. So somebody say, well, real God. Buy a house with cash, how can I do it? You can do it. And I'm going to say how to do it. What are my buying options if I can't go the traditional way? What are my buying options if I can't go the traditional way? We're going to start at the least offensive method, and that is traditional is to go to banks that will forgive you a bad credit. All right? So if your credit is not that far off, there are some banks that will specialize in helping those that have bad credit to buy houses. That's if you're going to do it traditional way, then, and you still have to have some cash. All right? But you were talking about taking on a mortgage, and I realize that. But this is we're going to go from the easiest and less work to the hardest and the most work. All right? So if you're here, you just need the easiest and most work. Capital Bank downtown advertises on the radio that they will help people with bad credit. So go talk to the folks at Capital Bank and see if they can help you. If they can't, you might want to stay around and listen for what's coming up next. Other thing is credit unions. Some credit unions requirements are lower than the traditional banks. They're going to sell your mortgage off anyway, and they will work you in with a lower credit score than what the bank will. So credit unions and banks that will work with you with bad credit. Anybody heard of those banks? All right, so if that's it, you're good to go. Now, this is for those folks. Yes, ma'am.
Which credit unions? I mean, is it all credit unions, or do you have specific credit unions?
Usually any credit union. And what you have to do again, how many folks have ever bought a car with bad credit? When you buy a car with bad credit, you typically don't get the car the first lot you go to. You know? And can I just be real with you? You know, you go to the car lot and they get ready to run your credit bill. Alright? And then they run you out, you go someplace else. And you do the same thing again. And eventually you get the one and they finally say, okay, we're going to work with you, we're going to put your secretary finance, and you go, oh God. And then you just get whatever you can get. But you don't give up. Same thing. You keep going until you go until you get those no's to try to find a yes. All right. One of my places that we bought, the first bank that I went to did tell me yes. Had I stopped there, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. All right. You keep going. Sometimes it's personality. Sometimes it's your color. Sometimes the person that you talk to just had a bad day. All right. But then there's somebody who needs to write a mortgage so they can get paid. Okay? And you get that person. And when you get that person, they're going to work with you and work with you and work with you because they want to get paid. So you keep going. But if you stop, you miss that person. All right? So that's for the traditional way. Now we'll talk about ways to do it that require some work. Now, if you didn't want to do any work, I would advise you and recommend that you get a rich uncle someplace that's going to give you some money so you can do it traditionally. Because everything from this point out takes work. It takes time and it takes patience. All right? You're going to go through some disappointments, but you got to take the disappointment and get up and keep on going. So, anybody know what FSBO is? For sale by owner. For sale by owners are where you want to look at, and a lot of them have for sale by owner sign in front of the house. If it's a for sale by owner, and the owner really owns the house, a lot of times they will do owner financing. And they work out whatever terms you work out with them. Okay? We're still talking about, at this point, you're still going to have to, they will usually ask for something down. Usually it's less than what the banks have to have. Because anything that they get is a gain for them, and they work the payments out. Or a rent to own. And they'll work out a contract with you so that you can rent to own the place. That's another, again, we're going from the easiest to the hardest. So you can rent to own. In these situations, you're taking on debt, but you're getting your house. Typically, you're going to pay a high interest rate, but it's the same way on that car. When you have bad credit, you pay a high interest rate to get secondary financing until you can build your credit up. So we know that we have to deal with the consequences of choices that we have made. But owner financing, and you'll be surprised, people like me are willing sometimes to do owner financing. And different types of investors, I see in 1 second. Different type of investors some investors buy just to sell. And so they will sell to you with owner financing. But you have to look for them. And you can't be afraid to talk to them, work out conditions. All right? So I can't tell you what those conditions will be. You have to find them. You can look at the paper, ride around, walk around. Those an opportunity for you to buy with bad credit or no credit. Yes, ma'am.
So how do we know in a situation like that where you're to own that, it's it's something legitimate. You don't want to, I don't want to seem close-minded, but you pay all this money into this rent to own with a contract, and this person, you find out later on that, it was bogus or, they were in. I mean, how do you know for sure that, to make sure that's a good option? Okay.
Jim is saying due diligence. You got to talk to a lawyer. General information. You'd be surprised at how much information you find. I can take your name or your address and go online, and I can pull up and tell me what properties you own. It'll tell me how much you bought the house for the last time, what it sold for the last time that it was bought. Okay, all that's general information. So you just have to, again, for knowledge, you have to know to pull that stuff up. So if somebody's trying to say that they don't own the house, then you know that's not legit because you can find that information out. And it doesn't cost you anything. All right? And a lawyer, again, in networking, if you're in a church, there may be a lawyer in the church that will look at it. You can go to a realtor that might look at the contract and say, this doesn't look legit. Okay? So it's networking, you have to talk, just do some due diligence and research. That's one of the things that we don't like to do. All right? It's work. And it doesn't cost you but your time. It's going to cost you, but it's your time. All right? So, owner financing to sell by owners. Now, let's move from there. HUD. All right? HUD is a great opportunity. To buy a HUD house, you need a medium FICO score of 640. All right, 640 to buy a HUD house. If it's going to be your residence, which is typically the first ones that these houses are offered to, and that's online. If you go to HUD online, www.hud.gov.gov, all right, and then you'll look for your area. There's actually a list online. I'll do that at the next class, but I'm just giving you options this class. But HUD puts a list up of houses that are available, and they put on there who they're available to. If they're available to first-time homeowners, which is usually the priority, they stay on the list. First-time homeowners don't buy it. Then they open it up to investors, or nonprofit, and then investors. All right? I fit in the category of investor. But you get first choice if you're not a homeowner at the house. Let me just tell you what some of those houses go for. Last week, I looked at a house that was $33,000. This week, I looked at a house that was $25,000. The tax value on the house that was $25,000 was $71,000. Was that? No, that wasn't in Pepper Ridge, but the houses are on there. Now, if you can get in one of those houses, listen to what I'm saying. If you get in a house that's $25,000 and it's worth $70,000, how much equity you move in the house with?
45.
Somebody say it louder for you? All right? That's equity that you move in. And the other part about it is that they have an escrow. I think that particular house had $4,000 in escrow for you to fix the house up. Knowledge is power. I told you the first house my wife and I bought in Quail Ridge that we rented out since 2000 was a HUD repo. You know, but sometimes when you hear that, repo, I don't want a repo. But see, kid growing up in Detroit, I wore hand-me-down clothes. I was the oldest of 5. So you know who hand-me-downs I had? I don't even know who it was. It was hand-me-down. That's bad, boy. All right? So if I can get $40,000 worth of equity, I don't care what folks say. That's always a HUD house. All right? Now, let me tell you how my mind thinks. It's a HUD house, you don't have to live in it for a year. That's what they tell you. All right? So you get it, then you sell it, and you move up. You might have to step up to what you want. If you can't move into the gated community right off the bat, you might have to step up. Okay? And if you move into the next HUD house and you get another $40,000 worth of equity, now you got $80,000 cash to go buy you another house with. Does that make sense? Okay, so HUD repos is a very good program for you to buy your first house in, whether you have good credit or bad credit. All right? If you have cash, and they really like you if you have cash, guess what your credit score could be if you get the house? It could be 0. Because they don't care. You're going to give them cash money. All right? So if you can get cash, now, they might have a house on it that's $15,000. You say, well, how do I get $15,000? You save it. And you work hard. Okay? But you buy them with cash. The thing is to get our mindset out of doing things the traditional way. And once you set a goal and you start to work toward it, next thing you know, you're going to be there. You might not get your house this week or this year. But if you're working toward it, guess what? It is coming. And the closer you get to it, the more excited that you get about it. But if you have no goal, and you just say, I want a house, well, what are you going for? No, nothing. I'm just waiting for somebody to give it to you. All right? But you waiting on, you don't even go to the bank. Anybody ever wanted a car and just didn't go to the car lot? All right? In most cases, I'm going to have to say this. Because my God can do anything. In most cases, you got to go out and look for it. God has just given me, so I had to go out and look for it. All right? I guess we got it like that. But in most cases, you need to, I tell folks that you have to go. But I had to change it because I had the mindset that you always, if you want a car, you got to go out and look for it. If you want a house, you got to go out and look for it. All right? But God is able to just give you something. Folks just walk up and hand something to you. My first job out of the military, I did not want to work. I had worked since I was 16 years old. Worked a regular job since I was 15. Made a fake ID, he said I was 16 so I could work, because I wanted to have my own. We were poor, so I had to have my own money. I've always liked to have money, so I had to have my own money. So I faked that ID, and I had worked 20 years in the military, plus that time, I wanted a break. I didn't want to work. And somebody called me and said, look, I need a resume. Called me a week later and said, where's their resume? I'm like, I just got out how to put a resume together. So he said, just put something together. I put my resume together, got it to him, I got a job. So I had to change what I said. I wasn't looking for a job, it came to me. But typically, you got to go out and look for it. You know, I'm not going to put it past God if you say you want a house and somebody comes and gives you some keys, but that hasn't happened yet. So for houses, if the way it's working with me, you're going to have to get out and look for it. This is what I've used in the last 3 years to boost my business. And what I say to boost my business is, I've said that we have over $1 million worth of property. That's not my net worth. Net worth is based off of what you own. In the last 3 years, I've bought property that I paid cash for that is valued at over $250,000. All right? And that's where, so when you do this, this is what you own. You're going to pay cash for these houses. Auctions. All right? There are online auctions. When you buy from an auction, you have to pay the cash, but you own the house. You get the deed and the title. Most people, when you buy a house through the traditional way, you get a deed, but the bank holds the title. A lot of folks don't even know that there's a title to their house. All right? Because you just, basically, the bank is loaning it to you till you pay it off. When you pay it off, you know, we say it's our house, but it's really not yours because you don't have the title. When you buy a house from the auction, you get the deed and the title. We bought a house for $17,000. Right? That I ended up putting a mortgage on and using the money I made out of it, money to fix it, and then money for future investments. What I'm saying, if you're looking for a first-time house, buying from the auction, you take ownership of the house, you get the title, you get the deed, it's yours. All right? Some people say, well, I can't look at it because I need a whole lot of money. Well, no, because I have a house that I bought from an auction that I paid $2,500. Look at your neighbor and say, he said $2,500. $2,500 that I paid for the house. I had to pay back taxes on it, which was $3,000. All right? All of the houses that I have bought at I'm going to talk about tax lien houses. That's on my next slide. I'm going to get ahead of that. Tax lien auction, I have not spent over $5,000 for a house. All right? At the tax lien auction, though, you have to have patience. Because you have to have the money. They don't take IOU. All right? 2 hours after the auction, you have to come up with the cash. Then you have to wait a year, okay, to get ownership of the property. You're not even supposed to walk on the property until that year is up, okay? The owner has a year to redeem. But look at this. If the owner redeems it, you get 20% of what you paid plus what you paid back. Did your bank give you 20% on your money within a year's time? Okay, so if they redeem it, you got 20% to go back the next month and you can try it again. Alright? I love the tax auction. Alright? I love the tax auction. Now you may need to fix a house. Alright? I can do the work myself, so a lot of places I go in, I look at what other people don't want. Because as long as you got good bones, I see the potential in it, and I put it into action, and then I turn that into something that was a gold mine. Because nobody wants it, so now I can get it at a lower price. All right? So then you have to know what you're looking for. A lot of you ladies, if you're looking for your first house, you go in and you want it so move-in ready. Well, you know, that's probably not going to happen. All right? In the first step. But again, if you're willing to step up gradually to get to where you want. If you bought a house for $5,000 and you kept it for a year, saved some more money, and then you sold it for $25,000, now you go back to the tax auction and you go to a regular auction and step up, because the more money you have at the auction, the better type of house that you can buy. And somebody was saying, well, I don't know what did they sell at the tax auction. Well, let me tell you, they sold, last year there was a house that sold that was valued, I think, $250,000. And it sold for $70,000. In a nice neighborhood. Yes. So in this scenario, we went back and we said you sold two, you got $80,000. Guess what? You could have bought that house. $250,000 house for $80,000. $70,000. All right. Just change our mindset. We have to change it. And you can't do something the conventional way. My grandmother used to say something, I didn't know what it meant, but she said it did, but now I use it a lot. She says, more baby is more than one way to skin a cat. All right? And so there are some folks that are what we call bougie. You know, anybody know what that means? What's that mean? No, she said I'm bougie. No, all right? No, I'm not going for that. Let me tell you something. Not only were we poor, but, you know, my mom and my dad are from Knoxville, Tennessee. I was born in Knoxville. And after my dad left in my early teens, my mom just had this thing that, you know, they say one man's trash is another man's treasure. Let me just say, my mom had us go get a lot of treasure. All right? Now let me tell you an up-to-date story. A couple of years ago, right here in Augusta, out there on Bobby Jones, it used to be, I think it was some type of sports center, where, you know, where Sam's is at, over in that shopping center over there. You know, whatever that business was, it went out of business. I do a lot of auctions, all right? And I'm going to talk about funding. I do a lot of auctions, because you can buy and resell. So I went to that auction. I bought some things at that auction. And there was a gentleman there that was buying up the aluminum racks. I think the aluminum racks sold for maybe $100. And I'm talking about, you know how big that place was. He had a lot of aluminum racks. Now, some of you would say I was curious to go and ask him what he was going to do with those racks. When I grew up, my mama would just say I was nosy. And so I asked him what he was going to do with those racks. You know what I said earlier about opportunity? He spent $100. That was over $1,500 worth of scrap metal. He loaded it up from there and took it straight to the yard. I was like, wow. Opportunity I missed. Opportunity not. And I missed it. So somebody said, well, Reverend, what are you saying? Is if you need to fund, you might have to pick up some scrap metal. You might have to cut some grass. You might, whatever it takes for you to make that money, sell some funds that you like or don't like to start your fund. True story. Last year, and this was to show my son that he could accomplish the goal that I've set for him. And he would vouch for me. I used to save change, and I don't do cash a lot. I just use my cards, right? So when I do cash, I take my change and I put them in a jar. When that jar fills up, I put them in another jar. When that jar fills up, I put them in another jar. Took a 5-gallon jar of change that I had saved up. And what did I do with it, son?
Speak up.
I don't know. I forgot.
I bought a house. I bought a house with the change that I saved up. Let me say it. Look at your neighbors, tell them. He bought a house with his change. If he can do it, I can do it.
I can attest to that change thing, because I said the change for a whole year, and I bought the kids Christmas stuff.
Okay? All right?
Attest was the change.
You have to think outside the box. And if it's a goal, if it's something that you want to do bad enough, you're going to do what it takes to do it. All right? Think about how much money that you waste and you throw away. If you want to buy a house, you're going to have to start counting what you have until you can get what you want. Okay?
Go out and eat for lunch.
Bring your own lunch. I can eat out every day if I wanted to, but I bring my lunch. Most of the time. Sometimes I treat myself when I go out. But, you know, when I came to Augusta in 1990, I was still in the military. I told you I'm retired military. I was still in the military. I went through a divorce. I owed Uncle Sam a whole bunch of money, so I wasn't getting a lot of money in my check. But I was smart enough to have an allotment, so I knew I'd have something to live on. God has just blessed me to have a little bit of money since all of my life. So I had a little something coming in, but it wasn't enough to do all I wanted to do. All right, I'm E7 in the military. I went to a pawn shop. I bought myself a lawnmower. I went to the PX, that's our Walmart, and I bought a gas can. Me and my little Ford Escort, little white Ford Escort with burgundy interior. I went around and I cut grass in the neighborhood that I ended up living in. All right? You think I cared about what people said about me? Was I preaching it? Yes. All right? I don't care what I put money in my pocket. All right? So you will have to do, if you collect cans, you have somebody give you their cans. If you go and you see scrap metal, might have to do like my mama did. That's a goal for me. I pick that metal up and go. If it's $5, guess what? That's $5 toward your house. Again, we have to change our mindsets until you can get to the point that you can do what you want to do. You can build up to that. You don't have to do it the way the rich do, but guess what? Most rich people, you don't know that they're rich. In the book, the Millionaire Next Door, it talks about the person that's on either side, you can be rich and you will know it. Again, as I said earlier, most folks try to dress like they have $1 million. They don't. Most of the folks who do have it, and I'm not outside of your rappers and celebrities, but the average person that has $1 million, you wouldn't know it. Because the way that they got it, they're more thrifty than most of us. All right? They can afford to go get anything they want, and, they at the dollar store, they got coupons, okay? All the stuff that we don't want to do, we don't have the time to do, they're doing it, and that's why they have the money. And they can afford to go get anything, buy anything that they want. They wear the cheapest stuff that they can find. All right? I'm not that bad. When I want to dress nice, I go and I dress nice. I want to treat myself, I treat myself. But when I have a goal, then I will do it out to meet that goal. And what I'm telling you, if I can do it, you can do it. All right? Now, I have some education. I have a bachelor's degree in electronic management. I have a master's degree in management. And so I've had some education. But education, it helps so I know how to manage money and how to mess it up and fix it up. But you can do the same thing I do. You don't have to have an education to go downtown what's that? On Green Street, was it first Tuesday? First Tuesday of every month. You don't have to have a high school diploma to go down there and buy a house. They don't care what your credit score is. They don't care what your educational level is. You have a third-grade education. After that auction, 2 hours, if you give them money, they mail you a deed. Okay? So you can do it. One of the things that you learn about folks who have money, have done, they can lose it and they get it back. But if you look at the statistics, most folks who win the lottery, within 2 years, they broke. Think about that. $200 million in 2 years and broke because they don't know how to manage their money. And the reason why some of you that came in, I told those who came in early, the reason I'm not giving out pencils and paper is because when you get something, you don't take care of it. So if you write your own notes to the board, you go back and you'll read it. But if I just give you a handout, it's going to end up on the refrigerator, your trash can, maybe your lights, your fireplace, or whatever. And again, our church, I'm responsible for what we have, and I'm not going to give you our paper just to burn up. So if you want to burn up for paper, you can burn up your own. Okay, we talk about where do I get the cash? Again, whatever you need to do legally. Somebody say legally. Legally. And make sure I say that. Somebody was in the rep, so we do whatever I do. Whatever you can do legally. All right? So what can you do legally? If you say, I'm already working 2 jobs, okay? Well, it don't cost you nothing to collect cans. It don't cost you nothing to cut grass. It don't cost you nothing to ask people, what can I do for you to make some money? Before I was old enough to get a regular job, I took people's garbage cans out because I lived when we moved to the middle class neighborhood, we didn't have alleys no more. Which kind of got rid of the rats. When I go to the 3rd grade, so you had to take the cans to the front. I take people's garbage cans out. My friends made fun of me. Oh, take garbage cans out. Guess what though? While their parents had money to give them, my parents didn't have any money to give them. So I made some money. I put that money in my pocket. Right? So you have to get whatever you can do. If you have to coupon and save on what you spend on groceries, if you got to take your lunch, as somebody already said, instead of buying your lunch. If you have to do without some of the snacks, whatever you have to do to save, get that goal and put that money up. And put that money up, again, you may not buy a house next week, but if you put that money up, how much did I say I bought a house for at the auction? $2,500. So if you can buy a house for $2,500, you got to say, now, where can I get the money? You know, there's a funny thing that happens every year. Every year. Anybody know what the average income tax check is? I think most, what's that? $2,900. That's $400 more than what I bought my first house with. Well, not my first house, but one of the houses I bought with. $400 more. Now guess what? That's $2,900 you hadn't spent all year long. So take it, instead of getting some new shoes and a new purse, you know, and all this new stuff, go buy a house with it. Guess what happens? You buy it at the tax office, you got to wait a year. Guess what happens the next year? You got another $2,900 to go start working on the house that you bought because the $2,900 is going to need some work. Okay? Now you got $2,900 to start doing some work on it. And it's yours. Right? So we have to think about, where can I get money from? Now I'm not going to tell you, some of you may have 401ks. I'm just going to say something. And you can do what you want to do. Last year I took out all my 401ks. Somebody said, well, God, you know you had to pay a penalty on that, didn't you? Absolutely, I paid a penalty on it. But guess what? The penalty that I paid is less than the money that I made off of it already. Because I reinvested in what I do. All right, so I use my 401k to finance my lawn business, which is to make money to buy more houses with. Understand what I'm saying? So if you got $40,000 in a 401k, and you can buy a house for $25,000 that's worth $70,000, do you need a master's degree to understand that even when you take the penalty out, you still made about $30,000? And unless you just want to do things traditionally, for me, I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to make that money and then reinvest it. All right, questions? Because I was supposed to quit at 7 o'clock for my Bible study, and God knows I don't like missing my Bible study. Well, in my case, I couldn't have, because my 401k was from a previous employer. The only thing I could do was either roll it over to another 401k. I could have borrowed from it.
You can roll into a QRP, which is a qualified retirement account, and there's no penalty. The government will allow them, there's an IRS, I can't remember the number now.
Okay.
There's an IRS charter act that was done by Clinton, I think it was, and you can roll over into a QRP and start an LLC with your QRP, which is what we do. And there is no penalty. Then you go to the bank and you open up your business account in your QRP. It's a qualified retirement plan. You can Google it.
See what's about knowledge? Alright? So we gotta get you back to teach you how to do that. Alright? But anyway, I rolled it over to and I could have done it that way. I paid the penalty, but I made up with some. So what I'm saying is that creative ways to finance and come up with the cash. But what I want you to understand tonight is it does not take as much money as you may have thought that it would take for you to get your first house. Now, when you buy these tax properties, if you pay $2,500 for it, you probably don't have to do a lot of work to it. The house that I bought at a straight auction for $2,500, it needed work. The bathrooms had gone in and took all the wiring out. But with what I put back into it, then I'm still ahead of the game because even the way it was, the house, the tax value was $50,000. All right? So you have to do things that may sacrifice. You may not have that beautiful kitchen that you want to have, but build up. All right? Live in this one for a year, 2 years, sell it, move up to the next one. Live in that one for a couple of years till you get to the one that has that beautiful kitchen that you want. But you can't do it. Any other questions? Did you learn anything? Was it worth your color? But I was going to do when we first started out, somebody told me not to do this. So I decided to listen. Just in case you didn't know it, my son and I was talking about it. I'm a little crazy. I don't do things traditional. Folks at HHWC will tell you that. They accept me just the way that I am. And so what I was going to do is, actually I brought some $5 bills. I was going to tell you up front that you had a negative attitude. It didn't take you more than a gallon of gas to get back home. I was going to give you $5 for the gas. But since you all have told me that you got something out of it, that's why I asked ahead of the day. Because I had somebody before this, if you had said I didn't get anything, I would have gave you $5 for the gas. But since everybody got something, then I'm not going to be here. No, it's going back in my investment. What I would do, if you want more details, again, this wasn't a class to give you details on the investment side. If by show of hands, how many would like a follow-through class that will do more details? That's enough. So first Wednesday next month, same time. First Wednesday next month, same time. We will talk about more details. I will go into the auctions. In my area of expertise right now is auctions, straight out auctions, and tax auctions. So we will talk about those areas and how we do that. I will leave it up to you to do some homework on how to finance your first place. What I would highly suggest to you is that your goal would be to get $5,000 in cash. Say it now. I can do it. I can do it. Okay? However long it takes. It may take you a year to get that. It may take you 2 years. But if you're working at it right now, if you weren't working at it, guess how we usually get to it? You wasn't. So if you set that goal now, we'll come up with at least $5,000 that you have cash money that you can go to the auction. Because what you're going to have to do if you're looking for your first house, different than what I do, especially if you don't do work, okay, is you're going to have to be more selective about what you buy. All right? And I'll talk to you about some of what I've learned I learned when I got there was somebody who bought a house, and that house burned down. When you went to the property, the house had already burned down. I've learned some things. I will share that with you, where I've spent some money and probably could have put my money in a better place.